Welcome back. Finally tonight, the November general election is right around the corner, and I had the opportunity to speak with the AARP about the concerns of 50-plus voters, voters of color, and changes to the voting process, including where you can go for more information. We are in election season with the general election coming up in early November. AARP Wisconsin has a long-term commitment to making sure individuals, especially those over 50, have reliable information about the issues and the latest information on how to vote. We are fortunate to have them as our guide to all things election here on Connect MKE Conversations on Race. Joining us from the National Office of AARP is Lisa Simpson, AARP Multicultural, Disparities, and Equity Director. Also part of the conversation today is Lisa Lampkins, the Federal Issues Advocacy Director for AARP Wisconsin. Welcome, and thank you both for being with us.
Yeah, really glad to be here, Denise.
Yeah, very happy to be here.
Thank you. Lisa Simpson, as we gear up for the midterm election in November, what do voters 50 plus consider to be the most important issues in the country right now?
Yeah, so AARP has recently conducted several polls, and through those findings, what we've learned is that inflation and the economy are really the most important issues for voters 50 plus, and that's regardless of gender, race or ethnicity, and even political party. We've also learned that among women 50 plus, 72% are concerned about having enough income to keep up with the rising cost, and 59% say rising prices are the most important thing to them personally when thinking about the economy.
We know that historically people 50 and older overall are high turnout voters. What does recent research from AARP tell us about voting trends among the 50 plus? And I know you also have research focused on older women. Can you speak to both of those, please?
Absolutely. In the 2018 midterm elections, the 50 plus made up about 60% of the electorate, and they are poised to make up an even greater share in 2022. In Wisconsin, about 38% of the population is 50 plus, but they make up 55% of the registered voters. So candidates in Wisconsin and across the country really should pay close attention to voters 50 plus. In a recent AARP poll, 80% of voters 50 plus said that they are extremely motivated to vote this fall. And then something else that we heard from our She's the Difference survey is that only 17% of women 50 plus have made up their mind about who they will vote for in the 2022 election. And in another survey we did, 77% of these women said that they were extremely motivated to vote, slightly lower than the 50 plus overall, but still really high.
One of the things that we know is that Black women in particular have had some of the highest voter turnout rates in the country. Do you think political leaders and candidates recognize the power of that electorate group or pay enough attention to them given their power at the polls?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway from recent AARP Commission polls is that the candidates should not take Black voters for granted. Our She's the Difference survey found that only 17% of Black women, the same for women who are 50 plus overall, have made up their mind about who they will vote for in the 2022 election. And roughly half, about 53% of these voters say that they will not make their decisions until weeks or just days before the midterm election. So their votes will likely decide the balance of power in Congress. And our recent poll of voters in the 56 most competitive races shows that Biden has a 29% disapproval rating among Black voters 50 plus, and that 19% of these voters are undecided about who they will vote for in November. So politicians and candidates really should be paying attention to what the this group is saying.
It really is a powerful group that, as we take a look at, regardless of race but particularly focused on gender, women really can make a difference in what is going to happen in terms of the midterm elections.
Absolutely.
Lisa Lampkins, what has changed here in Wisconsin this year in terms of the voting process, including how people can vote? And it seems like there always are questions and people are sometimes a little confused. Also help us out by telling us what voters need to bring with them to the polls to vote. But first, let's take the first part of that question. What's changed in terms of the voting process?
Yeah, Denise, I'm really happy to, be able to talk about this a little bit, because one of the key things that is important to us at AARP is to make sure that everybody votes. And there is a lot of confusion right now in Wisconsin. And one of the biggest changes really is related to voting by absentee ballot. And, a lot of us used absentee ballots during the pandemic. They were very popular. Communities went out of their way to make sure that people could use them. And people got used to using secure absentee ballot drop boxes at various locations like libraries and community centers. I know they were, all over the state. However, and this is really important, the Wisconsin Supreme Court recently ruled that the use of absentee ballot drop boxes is illegal. So if you're hoping you can just, swing by the library and drop your ballot off the same time you drop off a library book, you will not find that. So it's important to know there are 3 ways that you can return your absentee ballot. Probably the easiest is just mailing it back to your clerk, just using the regular Postal Service mail. Your ballot's going to come with an envelope. It is already addressed to the clerk. It already has a stamp on it. The back has some certification language. So you complete your ballot, you put it in the envelope, you sign the envelope, you have a witness sign it, and you just put it in the mail and it gets delivered back to your clerk. So you can mail your ballot back. You can also deliver it in person to your clerk's office during their business hours. You can just go and hand it to them. And then finally, you really can deliver it to the polls on Election Day. The big thing is that any absentee ballot, no matter how you return it, it has to be at the polls by 8 p.m. on Election Day.
And what do voters need to bring with them to the polls if they're actually going to be voting that day at their polling location?
Yeah, well, in Wisconsin, we actually need a photo ID to vote. But that's, whether you go to the polls in person on Election Day or even if you request an absentee ballot. So even if you request a ballot, you either have to send a photocopy of your photo ID or you have to upload it into the Wisconsin voter system. So in Wisconsin, we all need a photo ID to vote. Now, there are lots of different things that qualify as an acceptable photo ID. You can use your driver's license. You can use a state-issued ID card. If you have a passport or a military ID, anything with your picture on it for the most part. There's a link on our website where you can look up what are all the things that are acceptable. Just one little tidbit to know, these could be expired, right? The photo ID is just to prove sort of who you are. So if you're worried that your driver's license, expired a couple of weeks ago, you can still vote using that photo ID. So do please just remember to bring that ID with you, whether you're getting an absentee ballot or whether you're going to the polls.
Lisa Lampkins, as we approach the November election here in Wisconsin, are there deadlines voters need to remember, especially as it relates to absentee voting and early voting?
Yeah, those dates really have a way of sneaking up on us. So it's important to kind of make your plan early. The first thing folks really need to be aware of is the voter registration deadlines. You can register online and by mail by October 19th. You can register in person at your clerk's office by November 4th. Now, if you miss both of those, it's okay. You can still register at the polls on Election Day in Wisconsin. And just a reminder, if you moved, even if you just moved down the street, you will need to re-register. So, take the time now to make that happen. One of the second important deadlines to remember has to do with absentee ballots. And I mentioned voter registration first because you have to be registered in order to request an absentee ballot. The official deadline on getting absentee ballots is November 3rd. But I just want to say, if you think about it, that might not allow enough time for the clerk to mail you your ballot, for you to fill it out, put it back in the mail, and mail it back. The Postal Service is recommending that people put their completed ballot in the mail at least 1 week ahead of Election Day. So that really means you should be sticking your ballot in the mail on November 1st, so you can make sure that it gets there. So my advice is don't wait. You can request your absentee ballot now, and it will just be sent to you as it gets a little closer to the election. Finally, in Wisconsin, we do have early voting, and that happens about 2 weeks before the election. So between October 25th and November 6th, people can do what's called in-person absentee voting, just early voting. It varies a little bit depending on where you are, the municipality you're in. So you'll just want to check out which options are available in your local communities.
Thank you. This is a lot of great information that you both have shared. Where can voters of any age go to get more information about voting, as well as bipartisan information about key issues?
Well, I'll just chime in first here because in Wisconsin, we have a terrific voter guide. It's aarp.org/WI votes, and it has all the information on deadlines, what you need, how to request an absentee ballot. It has links to all of the places where you can find your polling place, find out who your local clerk is. And so, it's really a one-stop shop for voters. So I'll plug that again, Denise. It's at aarp.org/WI votes.
Great, thank you. Thank you both, Lisa Simpson and Lisa Lampkins, both of AARP, for being with us today and for giving us this incredible information. Thank you.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Thanks so much.